Hey, this is Raise Radio, and today I brought on a long-term mentor of mine, Lisa Kilgour, the incredible Lisa Kilgour, to help you understand how you can better become friends with your body again. Okay, record up. Okay, I have a Lisa Kilgour. Lisa, I'm so honored that you would come and speak to my peeps today. You are such a sought-after speaker and a holistic nutritionist, a writer, you're an author. And today we're going to talk about how to help women be friends with their body again. Is that right?
Yes, because
It's so
it's so
important.
needed. Our bodies are our best friends, and dieting culture steals that from us. And I spent 15 years helping women reconnect, and the power of making friends with your body is it's amazing.
When did you first start seeing that in your practice as like a problem?
I'd say early on, I would get a lot of clients who were chronic dieters, and they were mostly fed up with that and they needed a new way, but they didn't know what that way was. And as a non-dieter, I've always been an anti-dieting kind of person. I would help them kind of get to know their body. But it was about 10 years into my practice that I realized what I was doing. I first called it real life healthy eating because it was based in your real life. But as I kind of picked it apart, it really was undieting. And it was, the core of it is when you have more control over yourself. It's not control either, even it's more of like when you are the authority of your body, then decisions become easier, because what dieting does is it makes somebody else the authority. So one thing that we work in together is they want me to tell them what to do, and their frustration is I'm not going to. I'm going to guide them. I'm going to give them experiments to do, but we are learning their body so they don't need me anymore. And it's an uncomfortable process, and at times. So there are full sessions where we're just working out what their brain is telling them that they need to be restricting, that they need to be controlling. And I'm like, no, we need to be listening to your body. Your body, this thing that houses us, is desperately wanting us to be full of life and vigor and joy and happiness and being well. And that if we embrace that, if we learn why your body wants chocolate and we learn why your body craves cookies, then we can understand what it's looking for in that and help create that health and vigor. But when you restrict and deny, what we know from research is that creates binging and obsessions with foods that your body probably doesn't really want. It just wants the freedom to be able to have some pleasure. It doesn't want to eat a bag of cookies, but it would like to have a cookie in a moment of pleasure. And when we restrict for too long, your body stops trusting you. And so this is kind of like a meandering way of saying, like, when we just simply reconnect and see our bodies as that authority of our overall health, life becomes easier, because those Facebook ads for weight loss diets, which are written by the best copywriters I have ever found, are no longer attractive. When you understand your body, you aren't always looking for this outside solution, and it creates a stability in your life that I believe can trickle out to everything else. It's like you get the ground put under you, and now you have the energy and the vitality, but also just the confidence to do other things as well. Because I believe dieting culture steals a lot from women, including just bandwidth. It turns into this thing that that we can spend enormous amounts of our thinking obsessed with. And I don't want that. I want to give that back to people. I want that. I'm not even giving it. It's like I want to help them find it, so they no longer have that bandwidth going to I need to force my body into something it doesn't want.
Well, there's just so many other things we want to be able to give our energy to, right? Like there's so many amazing things in this life. And I think about that all the time, is like how much a real estate diet culture takes up in people's brain. And that's like part of why teaching this is so important, right? It's like you said, you want to be able to gift that back to people. And I mean, for them, it's a reclaiming, but for us, it feels like the work, right? Is like that you'd be able to give that back to people. Do you feel that that sort of external seeking comes from people struggling to be in their body?
I think that we're taught from a young age to ignore our bodies, mostly unintentionally, but that becomes an easy thing for dieting culture to really glom onto, like as a child being forced to finish your plate or being forced to eat foods that don't feel good, being told this is when meals are, and they're kids do need structure. There's absolutely no question that structure needs to be put around eating, but unintentionally our culture also creates this disconnect between when do I feel full, when do I feel hungry, what feels good, what do I enjoy, what doesn't feel good. And then as women we become teenagers, and this is happening with men too. It's happening right across all genders. And then it's like, oh, my body's turning into this female body. What do I see as a guide? I saw women dieting. So when I was 12, I put myself on a diet, not because I thought I needed to, but because I thought that's what the grown-up thing was to do.
Yeah.
And I became obsessed with calorie burning and my weight, even though that wasn't something I had any issues with before that.
Mm-hmm.
And my body size was a culture, like it was what our society deemed okay. But I still, just because of everything around me, felt like, oh, this is what I need to do. Thankfully, that was my only foray into dieting, and so my brain has always had that open space of like, I'm not worried about dieting. So that's where I can sit in that space for women who have spent 20, 30, 40 years in and out of diets, where their doctor is putting them on diet after diet, and I'm this other person coming in and saying, but you're perfectly healthy the way you are, or
Mm-hmm.
these symptoms aren't based on weight. Blood sugar issues isn't solved by losing weight, and balancing your blood sugar can cause your body to release extra weight if that's what's needed. It's like when we get to the core root of what actually is out of balance, we can do that in a much kinder way and still get to that healthier place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and I just, as you were speaking, I was thinking about how, having women around you just by osmosis and them sort of picking up energetically that you're like, none of this bothers me, right? Like you've worked through it. And so they get to sort of pick that up from you. Like this is a woman that like walks through the world without these things stealing her energy. And look what she looks like. She's full of vitality. She's like very smart and has all these like creative things happening in her life, right? Like I'm talking about you. So you've got all these great things going on because that's not taking your energy anymore. And I think that people being around you, they can just pick that up too. Like, of course they have to do the work as well, but it's inspiring to just be around other people that's not part of their reality. And so do you ever find that you, in a way, have to help people with other people in their lives who may be influencing them to continue with these, toxic ways of thinking?
Absolutely.
From others as well.
Yeah. Some of the hardest is friends saying, trying to be kind and saying, oh, you need to do this instead. And I'm like, well, that's not going to help.
Yeah.
And the worst is doctors. I have great respect for the medical community. And it frustrates me when the medical bias on weight is so high, and that instead of saying, oh, let's look at these things in your blood work, let's look at how you feel overall, it's entirely was a blanket, you must lose this weight.
Right.
That's how you'll be healthy. Or they're perfectly healthy. They're just in a higher BMI category, which is garbage science, which we can dive into if you're interested, like absolute garbage science, which should not be.
Garbage science.
Well,
it is.
the BMI was created by a mathematician to look at groups of people, specifically white men, and said very directly this should never be used for on individuals. When we look at the BMI with women, it diagnosed obesity correctly, if you want to call it that, or accurately 50% of the time, women of color significantly less than that. So
Mm.
they're using a method of calculation that was never meant to be used for single people, individual people. It was never created for women in particular, and people of color. It was really only kind of accurate for white men. And then that is being used as a judgment when they're going into a health practitioner. And that part of that, there is pressure, especially in the US, from insurance companies on that. And I know that like it's out of the hands of a lot of medical professionals, and there is a significant weight bias. Women also, there's a medical bias in women in testing as well. And so therefore I'm sitting and they're like, this is what my doctor told me. And I'm like, okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Let's look at this and say what feels like something that needs to be looked at, and what can be put aside as a simply an opinion. Because it can be very difficult when they come to see me and they're really like, they were feeling really good when we met last, and now they've had this judgment put on them, and now they're questioning what we're doing. And I'm a firm believer in body autonomy. So Raina, what you want for your body is what I want for your body. And so like my way never is the end all be all. It's like, we have a discussion. What do you want to do? And if one of my clients wants to go on a diet, I support them. It's not what I do, but at the same time, it's like, if this is what you feel right for your body, I support that. And I am here when that doesn't feel good for your body. And we can work through a different way, because dieting, I can't put anybody on a diet myself because it has a 95% failure rate. And so I don't want somebody to feel better for a couple months and then a year from now be back into where they were. I want them a year from now to be feeling better. And so the way to that I have seen is the fastest way, is the hard way, is the undieting way of learning your body again. Once you get it, it's like this light that just like, and they're like, food isn't a big deal. I'm like, no, food is not a big deal.
It's everything and it's nothing.
Exactly. And it's like, oh, it's like, that's the magic appointment. And I never know when it's going to happen. And it's just this, like, it's like a switch. And, but you have to work through all of that other stuff to get to that place where suddenly food isn't a big deal, but it's possible for everyone.
Yeah. And with the lens of bodily autonomy, you probably wrote your book on dieting not because you wanted people to stop dieting, but you just saw over and over again how many of your clients were like, please help me stop with this cycle. I don't want to do it anymore. It's exhausting.
Exactly. I have a whole section on helping talk through that part, because our brain, our really beautiful rational brain, is used to being in charge when it comes to dieting. Dieting makes sense to the rational brain. I must control body. Your body always wins. So the reason why the diet doesn't last is your body is unhappy and will take moments of tiredness, exhaustion, or overwhelm to say, I'm starving. I know there's a bag of cookies you've hidden in that cupboard. I think you need to go and get it. And it isn't malicious. It's malicious. It's not malicious. It's your body fixing a massive problem of under eating. It's like, there isn't a famine. There's food everywhere. Why am I starving? And so one thing that I've noticed is that we have to convince the brain. The body is 100% on board, but the brain needs a new job. And the first thing we have to do is have the brain understand that dieting isn't the way forward. And then the new job is to give it as the interpreter of the language of the body. And it's a really fun job to have. But the brain needs a lot of convincing. So I have a whole section of like, here's dieting and the ages. Here's why dieting doesn't work. Here's the research behind it. And I spend many appointments with clients talking through that rational part, because while looking at what I do seems super woo of like, oh, you're reconnecting with your body, all this. I'm a very rational person. And I also know that the brain simply needs that information to let go of what it thought to be true and learn a different way. And sometimes it's like, how about we just try it? What about if we just give it a go for a couple months and just see how it goes? And then as the brain gets more and more used to it, as the person gets more and more used to it, becomes second nature. Whereas at first, what they're used to is you're either good on something or bad off something. And real healthy eating is in the gray. It's somewhere in between.
Totally.
It's never perfectly good. It's never perfectly bad. It's always like a combination of things. And that gray is so hard when you're used to the black and white. And it's like getting used to the gray I really enjoy this. It's really fun. I find it interesting to learn how each person approaches this and where their struggles are. And it is hard work. It takes time, and it takes like introspection, and that just trust in, I'm struggling right now. Let's talk it through.
Yeah, for sure. I've embraced my gray. I call it food anarchy. So like the rules are what my body needs. That's the rule.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you are with people, do you find that you spend a lot of time helping your clients understand that this is not an overnight process? Because, you've talked about how it's like there's a lot of reworking happening and we're peeling away layers. And so do you find that people struggle with impatience of like, fix me now, fix me now?
Yes, 100%. And usually a couple months in, there'll be these conversations of why is our things not moving as fast? And then we have to look at, what are your parameters for not moving fast? Is that feeling better? Because you're feeling better. You've told me that, like your energy's better. And I play the part of witness of where things were to where things are. Because dieting culture has made it so there's a very specific set of parameters that is this is working, which is body shape changing. And I work a lot with perimenopausal women. I am a perimenopausal woman, and nothing goes quickly. And everything your body needs is probably different, almost opposite of what your body needed in your 30s. And so it's relearning this new body with cortisol that gets triggered really easily, and hormones that are shifting on a day-to-day basis sometimes. And it's the biggest hormonal upheaval of our lives. And we kind of go in blind. And so that combination makes it like we need to be really patient. Your body needs time to shift. And it's that impatience, though, helps us get to some of the underlying emotions as well. One of my favorite things about having my book on dieting coming out, is that most people have read it when they come to see me, and gives me the freedom to say, okay, you know who I am. I'm really going to sit in this space. Whereas in the past, I'd be like, well, let me find what they're looking for, what they want. It's like, no, you found me, because this is what I do. And this is a hard moment. I'm going to hold you here.
Yeah.
And it's made my work a little bit easier, because then I'm not questioning what they're doing, because it's like, you've read through my book, like that is me, like you've read my book, like it's what I do. And it's been nice, but it is like it's such a different way. But if we look at the long term of how will you feel in a year, it doesn't feel that slow. It just feels slow in the week to week.
That's right.
Change.
Yeah. Well, and part of our culture having the problem of dieting is also just we're in that culture of busy and the culture of hurry. And so for, to ask people to step out of that, to be with you and to slow down, like it's a big challenge for people. And, we're really hooked on our phones, and everyone's got dopamine addiction all the time. And so it's like asking people to just like really slow down and be present and talk about these things that are a lot of people hold a lot of trauma around food stuff too. And so it's a very intimate space. And but I want to pull back a little bit to that. So in the space of, having these intimate conversations with you about their food stuff that they might have, hidden for many, many years. How might people come to a place where they decide that they're not friends with their body and think that might be something that they need to start thinking about?
Most people who come to see me, I find, are a lot of times over 40. So they've been there, done that. And so they're like, I need a different way. And they
Right.
don't know what that way is yet. And so they find either they've read my book or they've seen me on TikTok or they've seen me on social media and they're like, oh, this is a different way. And
Mm-hmm.
that helps with this process, but it also is like we're swimming in a whole new ocean. And I take it step by step. There is like while I take everybody is incredibly individual and their path forward is their path forward, there is a methodology I take them through, and that's on my website, so that way at least there is some understanding of what we're doing. And often
Mm.
we'll start with things like, we need a breakfast that feels good. Let's start there. And this little baby step in first makes a world of difference. Like I'm sure you've noticed that in your clients as well, that when you start the day off with a meal that your body just loves, everything else is easier. So it's like, I know
Yeah, true.
win,
Yeah.
and it's not as hard as other parts of this. So it's like, let's start here.
Yeah.
And then the stumbling block is, well, then what do I eat for breakfast? I'm like, you tell me.
Yeah.
Here's a few ideas of like so are you a starchy breakfast person? Are you a protein breakfast person? Are you a combination? Let's try them all out. And these are the parameters we're looking for. Do you like it? Does it feel good?
Mm-hmm.
Does it keep you full for 4 or 5 hours? Does it actually work in your actual life?
Yes.
If you have a yes for two different breakfasts, you're pretty set. You're good.
Yeah, that's good.
It doesn't need to be like, you don't need something different every day. I've eaten the same breakfast every day for 2 or 3 years at least. I have no
Yeah.
interest in changing it. It's probably been longer. I love it. I wake up excited for it. I'm a creature of
Such a
habit.
creature of habit. Yeah, me too. Once I
And
find it, this is
yeah,
it.
exactly. And for most people who aren't a creature of habit, 3 is all you need. And we need to work inside your actual life, which also dieting doesn't allow for. Your dieting asks, bend your life to me. I say,
Mhm.
bend your way of eating to your life. So
Yeah, love that.
if your morning is chaos, don't expect to make a big veggie hash. That's
Yeah.
not going to be possible. Like, yes, some days you'll get up at half an hour early, but most days you're not. So what about a breakfast cookie in your freezer?
Yeah.
What is something that can be a non-negotiable because it's so easy? It's easier than not doing it. And so that's what I work with people for. I love breakfast. My breakfast takes me 5 minutes, but I always make space in my day. I am not everybody. So
Hmm.
I also I have the privilege of being a woman without children. Like that changes your morning
Right.
dramatically.
Hmm.
And so like breakfast cookies are a heavenly solution. Knowing what you can pick up on your way to the office if you work in an office is another one.
Yeah.
Having food there, like there are so many different ways that we just need to open up the box and say, what can we do? Because
Hmm.
when it is so easy, it's non-negotiable, then it becomes permanent.
Hmm. Hmm.
Permanent change is where long-term change is. Anytime you're bending your life to something, it's not going to last.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. What would you say would be one of your best tools for helping women to turn their focus inward and start befriending their body again, or just stepping on that path?
Yeah. The easiest first step is cravings, because
Mm.
when you diet, many body signals go away. You stop feeling
Okay.
hunger. You stop feeling satisfied. Those are so quiet; they go away. But what gets louder is cravings, and
Yeah.
cravings are the language of your body. Every single craving has a reason,
Hmm.
and when we turn from the judgment of I shouldn't crave this to the curiosity of why am I craving this? First, like that is like changes everything.
Yes.
But then it brings like that curiosity of like, why am I craving chocolate right now? I'm like, well, is it the week before your period? Because you probably need more magnesium. Or are
Right.
you really stressed out? Because dark chocolate's really, really high in magnesium and your body will always ask for it in those moments.
Yeah.
Why am I craving salt? Well, do you have low blood pressure and anxiety? Because those are often times where your body requires more sodium to keep your blood pressure up. And so that salt craving is medicinal for you. Why do I crave sugar? And there's 1,000 different reasons.
Yeah.
And so it's like when we can dive in there, and this is a question no matter why somebody's coming to see me, if they're coming for major digestive issues or undieting or adrenal fatigue or whatever, I look at cravings because they tell me what the body is looking for, both nutrient wise, but also overall food wise. And it's there. I've yet to meet a person who can't give me a handful of cravings. And no matter how disconnected you are, the more disconnected you are, actually, the louder they are. And so it's a really, really easy way in and can start that process of curiosity and moving away from judgment and in the easiest way possible.
Mm-hmm. So cravings are something that you want people to evaluate to start their journey on becoming.
So there's a whole chapter in my book on here are the major cravings, and
the cravings chapter is so great.
It's actually here. So if you go to my website and sign up for my newsletter, the first thing you get is a free copy of that chapter. So if anybody listening wants to dive into their cravings, if you go to like lisakilgour.com/freebie, I believe that one, or anywhere on my website that has a sign up for my newsletter link, you'll get that chapter from my book. So you get to see what my book is like, but also you get the best chapter. It even has a chart of like chocolate means this or that.
Yes. So helpful.
But it just like it helps shift that focus and in a really, really gentle and easy way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you said, earlier, it's really important to remember that our body's our friend. Like it's not trying to hurt us. It just has needs that we need to figure out.
Yeah.
Right?
It just doesn't like that diet.
Yeah.
And kicking you off that diet was saving your life.
Right.
We don't necessarily know why, and you might not be able to understand it rationally, but there was a reason for it that long term would have become a big problem. And so it needed to take that moment of weakness, of exhaustion, of desperate feelings of desperation and shove you off that diet. That was a moment of love from your body. That's a love letter from your body. And when we simply say, okay, you want me to be alive and vibrant, what do you need? It's a massive shift that can just change the way you walk through life.
That's so beautiful. I love that. That was so beautiful. I think that is how we should wrap this up because that was so perfect. But before we wrap it up, I want to tell the story about when I first met you because it's so sweet. So I emailed Lisa when I was studying at Holistic Nutrition School in Kelowna or in Vancouver, and you were living in Peachland, I think. And you were like, message me when you're finished school. And I was so excited because you were already well known around the Okanagan. And I was just like, could not wait to get back to the Okanagan after studying at the coast. I could not wait to get back to the Okanagan to meet you. And you took me out for coffee and we ordered brownies. And I remember being like, I'm eating brownie with this holistic nutritionist that I like look up to and I so admire, and we're eating chocolate and sugar together. This is crazy. And then you told me, like, as we sat down, you like told me that you specifically did that because you knew that after nutrition school, you're so obsessed with eating beautifully and you wanted to like teach me in that moment that like, yeah, we're not gonna go eat Swiss chard right now. Like we're eating brownie together because that's your life. And it was like this amazing lesson. And it was just like so perfect that you did that. And it really did set me up for the coming years to like really understand what balance looked like. And it's just like so perfect that you did that. I love that you chose to do that because it was so meaningful for me. And then you were my mentor for many years. And I just respect you and honor you so much. And you help so many people. And just the work that you do is so important. And I am so excited that you have a book. Like, please talk more about how people can find you on the internet or what you would like them to follow up on you or how they can find you online.
Well, first I want to say how wonderful it's been to watch you for 13, 14 years, like becoming the woman and the nutritionist that you are. I remember before you went to nutrition school and you were writing your grant to get there, you were like excited and young and like really, I could tell you were going to do this. Not many people actually work into this. And then when you came back from Vancouver, I didn't recognize you when you walked into that coffee shop because you were embodied in you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Raina. So it's been wonderful watching you like grow and change and doing this in your 20s. I started in my 30s. It's a harder process. And so like, it's fantastic what you've done. So if you want more from me, if you want to know more about my book, go to undieting.ca. My website is my name, lisakilgour.com, and you can also get to my book there. And then anywhere you see a sign up link on my website, you can get a free chapter from my book.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, Raina.
Thanks for listening. You can find me online at www.rainadonlutz.com.